What a time to be a Star Wars fan. Hey Star Warriors, StarGeek here. A week or so ago was Star Wars Celebration Chicago 2019, and it gave us so many surprises, introducing us to new characters, shows, video games, trailers, and even the title for the final chapter of the Star Wars saga. There's a lot that could be analyzed with this title, and the whole trailer in general for that matter. Seeing 3PO in the action was super exciting for a fan like me. And of course seeing Lando back and piloting the Falcon again was so cool. No line in any trailer has ever hit as hard for me as the saga comes to an end. It really hit that the Skywalker saga is almost completely over after 40 years. All of the most iconic characters coming to a close. The end of the line for the stories of Darth Vader, Luke, Chewie, and the droids who've guided us along with them throughout the whole journey. And of course, the character that we're all most interested in right now. Palpatine is back.
Now you will experience the full power of the dark side.
Oh boy. I think that, like a lot of fans, my reaction to hearing that laugh was a combination of shock, elation, excitement, and confusion. If Palpatine's back, what does that mean for this movie? What does it mean for the whole saga? Let's dive into some of the most intriguing, unique, and ridiculous theories that explain the return of the Emperor.
Do it.
So, since it was confirmed by the laugh in the trailer, and then confirmed further by J.J. Abrams, and then super confirmed by Ian McDiarmid showing up on the Celebration stage, Palpatine is definitely going to be in the new movie. But in what form? We all saw him die at the end of Return of the Jedi. That is, unless the robot chicken canon comes true.
Whoa. Do you ever have one of those moments where you think, how the hell did I get here?
But no, Vader fulfilled the prophecy as the Chosen One, joining his son, restoring balance to the Force, and saving the galaxy. If Palpatine lived, does it mean that all of that was for nothing? Nice going, dude, you got zapped to death for literally no reason. Wipe that creepy smirk off your face, you screwed up big time. It kinda ruins the character arc of Anakin Skywalker that was built up over the course of 6 movies, doesn't it? This noble sacrifice becomes, theoretically, pointless. But since none of us have seen the final movie, we can't start running around like chickens with our heads cut off making huge claims like that. Even if Palpatine somehow made it out being chucked down a pit and evaporated into a reactor core, it doesn't mean that they haven't come up with a good explanation as to how Anakin still fulfilled, or still will fulfill, the prophecy. I'm just saying let's not get ahead of ourselves. That being said, let's theorize.
So be it, Jedi.
Some of these aren't too extravagant or far-fetched, like the idea that Palpatine will only briefly appear to Rey or Kylo in some sort of Force vision or flashback, either to reveal some important information or just as a cameo. Or even more simply, he'll return as a recorded hologram message. Like we saw in the Battlefront 2 story arc, the idea of a recording of the Emperor imparting orders and information to the galaxy posthumously certainly wouldn't be anything new. Maybe the ragtag group here stumbles upon some sort of message that Sheev left in the remains of the Death Star 2, which is what I assume that thing is, as long as it isn't some sort of mirage or fake Force replication. Even though it had looked like it was pretty pulverized last time we saw it, the idea of a section of the space station crashing down to Endor or one of its 9 moons is somewhat reasonable. And the presence of the Death Star 2 could imply that another fan theory is true, that Palpatine's soul has been chained to its remains. Maybe they all stroll up to the Death Star and find that the Emperor's spirit is somehow possessing it, trapped within the confines of the location he died after melding with the reactor core. It's a concept that's been somewhat explored before in relation to the Sith equivalent of the afterlife. The leading theory in my mind is the simplest and most easily explained one. When Palpatine pops up in Star Wars Episode 9, The Emperor's New Groove, it will only be in Force Ghost form. Some sort of dark spirit akin to what we've already abundantly seen throughout the saga. Obi-Wan, Yoda, Anakin, they all became one with the Force after their death. Who's to say that Palpatine couldn't do the same? Okay, alright, so Pablo Hidalgo does. Apparently Sith can't become Force Ghosts because it requires compassion, love, and selflessness, which a dude who views himself as the Emperor of the Galaxy and the entire Senate definitely is not.
I am the Senate.
It's really the main goal of the Sith, to gain immortality and escape death. Ironically unachievable to them, but very doable for their adversaries, the Jedi. Or is it unachievable? In Revenge of the Sith, Palpatine tells Anakin the tale of Darth Plagueis the Wise, a Sith Lord obsessed with cheating death, devoting his life to immortality only to be killed by his apprentice, who we all know to be Palpatine himself. At this point, I think that the story of Darth Plagueis is honestly more well known than the actual plot to Episode 3. But here's where it gets crazy. What if Plagueis was never actually defeated? What if, when Palpatine killed him, Plagueis transferred his soul into his apprentice and took control of him, possessing a younger body in order to more easily achieve galaxy-wide domination, while also reaching a form of immortality by being able to jump from body to body? Which would mean that this whole time, Palpatine wasn't really Palpatine at all, but rather just the vessel through which Plagueis operated. After working through Palpatine's body for decades, he was ready to switch once again, hoping to do so with Luke Skywalker, which is why he kept egging him on to strike me down.
Strike me down.
He wanted to be killed, but when it didn't happen and was instead thrown down this pit to his death, his soul transferred again, not to Luke, but maybe to a certain mysterious golden-robed supervillain. It would somewhat explain the origins of Snoke and his motivations, even down to why he was so easily killed, making Snoke just a puppet that he was using as a vessel to regain his power. And then, by training a new apprentice in Kylo Ren and allowing him to strike him down just like he wanted Luke to do to him years before, he was able to possess Ben Solo. And now, this huge secret will somehow be revealed in Episode 9. Is it a likely theory?
I don't think so.
Not only is it a huge retcon to what we've all accepted as truth since the 80s, but it's also just so ridiculous. Like, hilariously convoluted. The amount of exposition it would take to properly explain this plotline would probably take up half of the runtime of the movie. But it doesn't mean that they still won't explain the origins of Snoke through Palpatine in this film. I, for one, really loved The Last Jedi, but I know that a lot of people didn't. So J.J. Abrams seems to have gone back and undone a lot of the stuff that Rian Johnson set up in Episode 8. Kylo's mask is back, Luke/Anakin/Rey's lightsaber is in one piece, and the sentiment, let the past die, that was hammered in with the last movie, seems to have been left behind in favor of bringing back Lando, Leia, the Celebration Medal, the Death Star, the Emperor, and lots of other legacy references. So really, who knows what's going to stick around from The Last Jedi? But if I had to venture a guess, I'd say that it's safe to assume that this Plagueis possession theory won't be the thing that throws a wrench in things. And we haven't even touched on one of the most popular theories yet, that the Palpatine we get in The Rise of Skywalker is a clone. The Emperor being cloned is nothing new to Star Wars. Books and comics such as Dark Empire from the early 1990s fully developed the idea of the Emperor coming back as various clones of himself to lure Luke to the dark side, with a Force-wielding Leia as his adversary. The series is really dark and not very in line with the canonical themes of Star Wars, but it's definitely worth checking out just to see tons of Emperors in mega-villain form. Cloning technology is very well developed in Star Wars lore. It's kinda what one of the movies is all about. But it really doesn't feel right for the Emperor's big return to be as some clone. If he's been cloned and that clone has the same powers that the Source did, then there's really no way to ever completely stop him from just coming back again and again as a clone. A twist on this theory, however, is that the Emperor we get in this movie is the real one, and the guy that we saw in Return of the Jedi was one of his clones. He didn't want to risk his actual life by being on the Death Star or in the presence of a newly trained Jedi, so he sent a copy of himself to die, which would mean that the real big baddie is perfectly safe and sound. Again, big retcon, but it's a theory. Or lastly, and most straightforward, the Emperor just somehow survived the events of Episode 6. Maybe he didn't actually fall into the core, instead grabbing onto some ledge and hitching a ride off of the Death Star before it blew up, going into hiding until he felt he was able to fully rebuild his forces and regain power, finally choosing to promote his big comeback reunion tour for Episode 9. All in all, none of these theories are perfect. In fact, most of them are really bad. But that's the nature of trying to predict these things. I'm willing to trust the professional filmmakers on this one, whether they do end up using one of these theories I talked about today, or something entirely different. Either way, I'm sure they'll give us the best movie that they can, and we'll just have to wait with bated breath, keeping ourselves busy until December by rewatching that teaser over and 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 over. Subscribe to StarGeek for in-depth Star Wars content. It's been a long time since I've done a video like this, but I really enjoyed it. So please let me know if you enjoyed it too by shooting that like button at light speed. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram by clicking the links in the description, and you can check out my last video, a side-by-side fan recreation trailer of the original trilogy in the style of Episode 9's teaser, if you just click on the thumbnail. You can also click on the right to watch my thoughts on Solo's box office performance and the future of Star Wars content. Until we meet again in a galaxy far, far away, this has been StarGeek.